This EuroLeague MVP is about to put the NBA on notice. After gaining a ton of experience and even winning an MVP in the EuroLeague, Sasha Vezenkov recently signed a 3-year $20 million deal with the Sacramento Kings. And although this isn't necessarily a name a lot of NBA fans are aware of, I'm here to tell you that Sasha is going to be very good in the NBA. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. In the past, typically when NBA fans heard of very talented EuroLeague prospects coming into the NBA, they had very low expectations for those guys, just due to the fact that there's been a ton of examples in the past of very talented EuroLeague players coming into the NBA and completely flopping, as Darko Milicic and many others are a perfect example of this. But one thing that I will say is, as of late, over the past 5 or maybe even 10 or so seasons, that narrative is somewhat changing, as somewhat recently there have been a really nice influx of EuroLeague players coming into the NBA that actually have proven to be some of the better players in the NBA, as Luka Doncic stands out to be on the top of that list. And I think at this point, NBA fans are starting to understand EuroLeague players a little bit better, because obviously there's going to be examples of very talented EuroLeague players coming over to the NBA and completely flopping, but on the other hand, there's also going to be some really talented EuroLeague players that come over to the NBA and play extremely well. It's really the same thing that you would see in any other way that players could make it to the NBA. Because, for example, there have been a ton of #1 overall picks coming out of college in the past that had all the talent in the world but just weren't able to succeed in the NBA, and there was also some examples of that, of very talented G League players coming to the league and not being all that successful. All these other players in different leagues, whether it's the EuroLeague, whether it's college, or even more recently the G League, all those players are used to a certain level, and when you make it to the next level in the NBA, that level is completely different. So some players are going to respond positively to that, and others are going to respond negatively, whether you're coming from the EuroLeague, college, or even the G League. So at this point, I really do think NBA fans have a better understanding of what to expect from these EuroLeague guys. But now, the question that most of you are probably asking at this point is, who is Sasha Vezenkov? Sasha Vezenkov is a guy who's been playing in the EuroLeague for a decent amount of time and even won the EuroLeague MVP. And also on top of this, Sasha performed extremely well in a Eurobasket, which is something that a ton of the NBA's top players, at least a ton of the NBA's European top players, perform in. For example, guys like Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And this is an extremely important tournament for those guys. And Sasha was able to perform extremely well in a competition that included the likes of the NBA's top players. But what specifically about Sasha Vezenkov gets me really excited about his potential in the NBA? Well, in my opinion, it has to be his overall offensive ability. For example, from that 3-point range, Sasha does a phenomenal job at hitting the catch and shoot 3-point jump shot, which is something that would translate very well to the NBA, as in the EuroLeague this most recent season, he shot over 40% from deep, but he also does a tremendous job at creating for himself from that 3-point area as well, as Sasha does a great job at hitting that crossover into a 3-point jump shot, sidestep, and even hitting the step back 3-point jumper. But moving on to his mid-range shooting, this is also a really nice aspect of Sasha's game, as he has all those same abilities that he does have from that 3-point range, but he also has a really nice post turnaround fadeaway as well. Driving all the way to the basket, Sasha does a really nice job at becoming a very crafty lefty and finishing around players with his left hand or even with his right hand as well. And overall, I would just say Sasha is one of those crafty lefty guys that has the capability to do a lot of different things offensively, but he also has an extremely high basketball IQ out there. So if he has the lane to create his own jump shot, he's going to do so. If he has the wide open 3-point jump shot, he's going to take it. If he can dish off to a wide open teammate for easy looks, he's going to do that. He's just one of those players that you really want to have on your organization, just due to the fact that it always seems as if he makes the right decision out there. And he also just makes everybody around him better, not necessarily due to the fact that he's one of the best passers and playmakers coming into the NBA or even in the EuroLeague, but just due to the fact that he does a great job at scoring for himself, but also if there are open teammates, he's probably more likely than not gonna find those guys for easy dunks or layups. And having those high character guys that just know what to do out there on the basketball court is something that's extremely valuable. And even besides those offensive abilities that I mentioned, Sasha also does a really nice job at moving without the ball and finding those open spots, and also on top of that does a really nice job at rebounding, both offensively rebounding and defensively rebounding. But the next question at this point is, why do I specifically think Sasha is going to fit in very nicely with the Sacramento Kings? Now, when you look at what the Kings were able to do this previous season, it was nothing short of impressive, as the Kings were able to make it significantly farther than anybody expected coming into the season, but they were also able to do this with a really young roster, so you would expect these guys to only get better with time. And when you add a player like Sasha vezenkov to this overall young roster, I do think he would be a really nice fit. As Sasha is 27 years old, which isn't necessarily as young as some of the other guys on this team, but at the same time it is still relatively young and he's getting close to his prime years, but also a lot of those abilities that he has offensively would fit in very nicely with this Kings roster in my opinion. Like for example, I think he would do a really nice job at creating for himself at times when he's running with the bench unit, but if the Kings decide to start him, he would also do a really nice job at just being that spot up 3-point jump shooter for De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis and just give them the space they need to facilitate and work. So overall, I am really happy to see Sasha finally making it over to the NBA and showing his skills there, but I'm even more excited that he was able to go to the Kings because I do think that would be a really nice fit for him. But probably the best part about this, at least for the Sacramento Kings, is the actual contract that they got him for. As the Kings signed him to a 3-year $20 million deal, which is a really low risk, high reward kind of contract for Sacramento. Because if Sasha plays up anywhere near to the level that I think he's capable of, this contract was an absolute home run. But in the worst case scenario, if Sasha just doesn't play all that well in the NBA, then you only gave him a 3-year $20 million deal, and it's not necessarily something that's going to hinder you in the long-term future. But overall, I am extremely excited to see what Sasha can do at the NBA level, but one thing that I also want to say is early on, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Sasha doesn't necessarily get all that much playing time and isn't necessarily playing all that well, but as the year does progress, I would fully expect him to continuously get a little bit better as the games do progress. And this is something that we see a lot of times with either younger players coming in from college or even players coming in from the Euroleague. Obviously, the NBA is a completely different level, so it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment period. Now, obviously, there's a possibility that Sasha just plays very well right away, but I'm just saying there is also the possibility that he does struggle a little bit early on, but Kings fans shouldn't necessarily panic even if he does. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening with Sasha vezenkov. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Sasha vezenkov has a chance to be really good in the NBA, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.